Hi, in this video I'm going to show you how to create a new product based on a job description. So with this feature you can simply copy paste a job ad and get suggested and highly relevant questions that you can create an interview project based on. To do that you press create new product and there's a new option that pops up. At the bottom it says from job description, and if you press that one we come to this view where we have three fields that we need to fill in. So name of role, the industry, and job description. And as mentioned, a job description can be a job ad or anywhere where you have some kind of document that describes the way that this role is all about. And you can, of course, write in the free text field here. It could be really good to mention what type of minimum requirements there are, relevant experience, and personal characteristics that are necessary to be successful in a specific role. In this case, we're going to use product designer as an example and see what type of questions we can generate. So product designer, and it's going to be in the SaaS industry. And now I'm simply going to copy paste a job ad that I found for a product designer. So you go like that, and then you go to the next step. And here you simply have to decide how many interviews you want your product to contain. So anything from 1 to 4 interviews. The reason it says recommended for 2 is because most recruitment processes contain 2 type of interviews. Maybe a first type of interview more focused on motivation and minimum requirements, so sort of why the person applied for the role and to get the minimum requirements to check them off. And then you have a deep interview, which is the second interview, where we focus maybe more on personal characteristics, hard skills, and previous experience, for instance. So we're going to choose 2 now. And this is where things become really interesting. So what you have to decide here is what you want to focus on in the first interview. So you have these options. And so if I press motivation and screening, I'm going to get suggested questions for motivation. I'm going to get motivation-based questions and screening questions. And they're all going to be based on the job description that we put in earlier. So the questions are going to be generated and provide us with a list of questions, and it looks like this. So depending on what categories you get, you're going to get different types of questions, which we're going to see when we move on in the product creation stage. So there we go. So now we got some motivation questions that pops up and also some screening questions. Up here it says what type of screening question it is. So this is a yes, no, or if it's a range, for instance. And you can choose the questions that you think are the most relevant for the role that you're building the product for. So do you have experience working with wireframing tools and CSS? That's really good questions to ask for a product designer. You can, of course, load more questions if you want to. And then we have motivation questions. So why they're interested in a specific field, why they apply for the role, and so on. So we can choose those 2. Good. Now we've chosen everything for the first interview. Now we're going to choose what we want to focus on in the second interview. And in this case, we want some competency-based questions, experience, and hard skills to showcase all of the different categories. And when I press next, same thing here. It's going to load and it's going to suggest questions based on the prompt that we provided earlier in terms of a job description, the role, and also the industry. And as you can see here now, we've gotten some competency questions. Up here, you have the name of the competency, and then you have a question. And what's really cool is that it does really create very specific questions based on the job that you put in. So we have a question about planning, but it also tries to focus it a bit on the specific role. So tell me about the time when you had to plan a prioritize task to reach a deadline with a product design product, just to make it feel a little bit more relevant. So take your time, go through the questions, and choose the ones that you think is most relevant for this type of role that you're applying for. And they have hard skills, same thing here. You have the sort of skill we're assessing here, and then you have the questions. So this one is great. So it's about wireframing tools that we wanted to focus on. Customer feedback is great. Iterative design, you can look at that. And of course, and now we have experience-based questions. So the sort of getting a bit more understanding of how the person has much experience they have in certain fields. And then you're done. And now you get to the product creation page. So this is familiar for you who worked in platform before. But what's very nice is that the questions have already been added. So the questions that we chose earlier have been implemented in here. So you don't have to choose any more questions. That's all done. All you have to do is add the other interview stages that might be necessary to make a perfect project. So maybe add the text here for the introduction, maybe add a presentation, add the salary, and a summary, for instance. And of course, to add an interviewer, and do the same thing for the second interview. Add some introduction text, maybe add whatever it could be, make sure that you ask some questions for the candidate, and of course have a summary, add an interviewer. But essentially, this is all part of what it was like previously to create a product. But now we don't have to think about choosing questions from a list, because we've already gotten those questions here in the product. So those are the questions that we chose. They're down here, and you can of course edit them and change them if you want to sort of pinpoint them even better towards your specific needs. When you're done, you simply save the project. And of course, if you feel like this is a great product that you created, you feel like the questions were great, well, save it as a template. There we go. So now we have a template that we can reuse for future projects. And we have the product here in the product page. So this is all you need.